Hello, Alchemist. Welcome back. My name is Ava, aka Queen Mindless Life Alchemist, and I am here for another episode of Freeing the Feminine Relationships Part 2 with some lovely co-hosts, y'all. My regular co-host here, Liz Olive. Hey,
Hey.
Liz. And then we have Miss Mary from Glimpsing
Hi,
Beyond. Hey,
guys.
Mary, and welcome. How
Thank
are
you.
you?
Very good. Thank you guys for letting me join you. I saw you guys last week and I'm like, I want to come on.
Yeah.
She did. She said, I want to come on. I was go for it.
She
Yeah.
sure did. It's like, all right, asking
Be
you.
like Mary, guys.
Well, I love what you guys talk about. I think it's a great series that you guys are doing.
Thank
Can I just say, Mary is like the #1 supporter of my shop. She has like almost all of my shirts, I think. And now she just got a phone case. She's
My phone case literally broke last night. So my husband gives me like the big manly black case that I can't open or anything. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. So I just went on and ordered a new phone case.
Yeah, she literally has been such a huge supporter of my shop. So thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And I always put you up for the shirt. See, shirt. Yeah.
Yep, she's got one on right now.
And which one is that one?
That
Which
one's
one is that?
Yeah, display the splendor.
Display is Splendor.
Oh, okay.
It's
There we go.
at 5
Bigger. Because I'm like 5'10". If I were to stand up, it'd just be a mess. So we're not doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm
like that one actually stems from my childhood of I went to a school where their mascot or theme verse, it was a Christian school, was the mighty oak tree. And it's like I don't remember the verse, but something like mighty oak trees planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor.
Oh,
That's true though.
Did that tree and then just display his splendor at the end, at the bottom.
that's beautiful.
I love it because it reminds me of your lungs. Because people
Yeah.
keep asking me why I love trees so much. I said I think it's just because it always reminds me of humans because it looks exactly like your lungs and capillaries.
Yep. And you know what also trees look like to me, or like make me think of nowadays, is like timelines.
Yes, yes, they
Like,
do.
every which way.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways.
Oh, I love it. Okay, you all. So today we are continuing our chat from last week. We're going to touch on forgiveness, abandonment, and boundaries are going to be woven in there as well, because this is a huge, these are all huge topics that whether or not they're being fully spoken in your everyday life, we're all dealing with things that we need to forgive ourselves for. You know, I almost said we need to forgive others for, but I'm going to go into that. You know, abandonment issues, needing to set more boundaries and acknowledge our boundaries and acknowledge and respect the boundaries of others too. So this is a very now topic, all of these, and we just want to dive into them. So I'm going to start out with a, again, from A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles by Marianne Williamson. And I will link this down below. This is actually—
I love her. I love her. She's a fabulous writer.
This is the first book of hers that I've read, and it's just so amazing. Like I have notes and highlighting, like so good. And this is actually part of the mentoring group that I'm in. And I'm using it for like all my videos now because of the topics in here are so like critical to just individual health and you know, health of the entire realm once we heal ourselves, and it just spreads, accumulates. So yes, I'm going to start out with page 93. There's a quote that says, "Forgiveness is the key to inner peace because it is the mental technique by which our thoughts are transformed from fear to love." Then there is also, "Forgiveness is the choice to see people as they are now." And one more, and they all kind of are like very similar. "Forgiveness is selective remembering, a conscious decision to focus on love and let the rest go." So Liz and I talked a little bit about forgiveness last week. And I believe there was one point where we were talking about how with relationships, there was a quote that I read from this book, and it has something to do with when we're interacting in relationships, we're either acting out of fear or acting out of love. And that's how we break our cycles. If we go back into that fear cycle and we're in those like that merry-go-round, but when we see that split off again and we choose love, then we break that and we go to a higher expression of ourselves and get to like, you know, level up.
Yeah.
So do you all have anything to add to the forgiveness topic?
Mary.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, I'll jump in. It's super, super hard to forgive, especially yourself. I've been in friendships before where people have just walked all over me. I think we all have been, and I'm a middle child, so I'm very used to like just saying yes to everything to keep the peace. And yeah, then those friendships have to end, and I had to end it. And I literally had to come to the conclusion that I deserve better. And to say that to someone and mean it and be like, I wish you nothing but peace and happiness on your path in life, but like, I deserve better. I forgive you, but like we're good. You know, and that's super, super hard to do. And it took me till God, I was 36 to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, that definitely can play into, I mean, obviously boundaries also.
Yep.
But I think of kind of something that I said in the last video, how I kind of came to the realization while I was talking. I was like, I need to like exactly what that quote said. I need to not expect them to change after I forgave them, you know?
Right.
Like the forgiveness is for me. It's not for
Correct.
them. It's none of their business, like Ava said. And so, you know, like essentially having selective vision, it's kind of like how fear is selective vision. It's the opposite. And having selective vision to see the good parts, even when you've been seeing the negative. And that is literally, that is love. That's a great definition of love, is choosing to see the good instead of the bad. It's like I think about even with my husband, he's not perfect at all. There's plenty of things, but I had this teacher once tell me, he was like, you know why marriages don't work these days? Is because you guys are complaining about and talking about all of the bad stuff all of the time. You're complaining that your husband or wife doesn't do this or doesn't do that or doesn't do this, and you're making it grow. You know, the more you like look at it and focus on it, the bigger it grows. And of course, like there are things that like are not acceptable, whatever, but like the minor everyday, you know, like my husband not putting his clothes in the hamper, he puts them on top because like the hamper is like closed, it has a lid. It's like you could just open it and put it in there, you know. Instead of focusing on that, I choose to change my mindset of, oh well, at least you put them right there, I know that they're dirty, I'll just put them in, you know.
Right.
Instead of compromising, choosing to change your mind is like the real forgiveness and love. I think that most people don't completely grasp, especially in the early years of marriage and relationships and whatnot. And it takes a little while working out to get to that point. And then also like, it takes a really strong character to, you know, allow yourself to change and make those changes. Like, yeah, I used to see all those things. I used to complain about him doing this and that all the time, but I'm choosing to forgive myself and move forward and even put that part of me that was so negative and so, you know, basically being detrimental to our relationship. I'm choosing to forgive that part of me and move forward and only see the good sides of me now too, in that, oh, I can take that situation and just let it go, you know, like just put the clothes in the basket for him, like, you know, kind of thing.
I love that you did that, because it's so hard when you're young. I was married at 18 and my husband was in the military. He learned where the hamper was because I just decided I'm not picking up after him.
Yeah.
Which is very petty, but I was 18. So he tripped over his sneakers and like fell into the hamper. And from then that day forward, he's always put everything away. So I'm like, all right. But
Yep.
as you grow up, you're kind of like, you know, there are better ways you could have handled that. And I
Right.
love that you're doing that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I just try to like, I heard that quote, like, don't compromise, change your mind. Like, you should never compromise in a marriage. You should change your mind with whatever you're thinking. So like, I'm not going to be pissed off anymore that this is happening. He forgets to, you know, close the cabinets in the kitchen. I'll just close them. It's not going to bother me anymore. I'm choosing to change my mind, like, and not be an issue, because it really is a very small, minuscule thing that I don't have to be annoyed about. And I think that's kind of more so the lens of forgiveness and love that a lot of us need to step into, just having grace for other people.
Yes.
You know, and make the big things and leave the small things out of it, you know.
Yeah, makes so much sense. I'm glad you brought up that quote, because I was actually trying to think of it the other day. I was like, what is that quote? Don't compromise. You should never compromise. You should.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm glad you brought that up. And it goes hand in hand with forgiveness, self-forgiveness. There was something else that I was going to say with that, but it might not have been that important because I can't quite remember.
I know, just because I remembered it. Marianne Williamson, you said,
Yes.
wrote the book. She wrote The Unmistakable Touch of Grace.
Ooh.
Fantastic book. It was written in the early 2000s. Fantastic book for forgiveness and offering yourself as much grace as you give to everybody else.
That's
that
a
is
great one.
big thing for empaths, starseeds, light workers,
Correct.
whatever, sensitives, people like us who are moving through this world, feeling and like empathizing and like
Yes,
holding energy for people.
I took that book and I highlighted it and I lived by it for like 3 years. It got me through. It was like therapy for me.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you said it's The Unmistakable. I'm writing it down.
Touch of Grace.
Awesome. If anyone's interested in that, I will link it below. Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, so you spoke about that friendship that you had, and let's go straight into boundaries, because you had to step up for yourself and like step into your power and know what you deserve, essentially. And how would you explain or describe what a boundary is, Mary?
I think it's different for everybody, but for me, especially because, well, people don't know, you can check me out on my channel, but I'm like an empath and a psychic and a medium. I have been my whole life. So it's been 54 years of this. Very fortunate that my family taught me boundaries young. But it's very hard for me being a middle child to tell people no. So that's something that I've been working on my whole life. And I love to be a people pleaser, which is another huge thing you got to kind of get rid of. Like cut yourself the same grace you cut everybody else.
Yeah.
So I've just started to do that now. It's very hard. You know, Ava, because you read cards, and Liz, you deal with people all the time and you pick up their energy. It's very hard to get rid of their energy when you do that all the time. It stays with you.
Yep.
And like, no one would give me, I'm trying to like the grace enough just to give me a little bit of downtime so I could ground and just be, because like I have everything coming at me and I'm like, okay. And I love to help people so much, but I just had to step back a little bit so I can be of the greatest good. Because I'm no good to anybody if I can't take care of myself.
It's true.
I love that. And I talk about it on a lot of my videos about filling our own cup first before we contribute, not fill other people's cups, because it's not our job to fill anybody else's cup. Because they could have the holiest cup, they didn't fill their own cracks and whatnot, and you're pouring and pouring and pouring and wasting your life force, you know, and for somebody who's not taking care of their own home, you know. So
thank you for saying that too, because a lot of people too become codependent on what they're hearing versus doing the work themselves. And I'm trying to steer them to do the work, and they're like, but I just want the answer.
Yeah, no, you find the answers within yourself when you do your own work.
Right.
Period.
That's even why like so many spiritual people, whatever lane you're in the spiritual world,
Right.
charge money for people to get answers from them, whatever, or advice or anything like that, because we have paid a price to be here. We've done the work. So it's out of respect for us, you know, I mean, it's not like I don't even charge anything, but I'm acting like I do. But it's out of respect for the person that you're asking these questions to and working with, you know, and you're respecting the work that they've done and their time and their life, you know, by trading into it monetarily, because money is a representation of your life. And it's a, you know, it literally is, you spend your life making it. So you
yeah,
can
it's an energy right now. It's an energy.
Exactly. So I just thought that when you were talking about that, like, that's why it is so important. And that's why spiritual people should and do charge, is because they've done, you don't know how many hours they've spent, getting to the place that they're at.
Gosh, the lessons that we've gone through, because usually when, you know, it's the shamans, the healers, the teachers, the people that are on the spiritual path in their life that have to get the beat down. Like they have to get their butt kicked left, right, get up, smack down, you know, because if we didn't have that experience and those scars and those like that remembrance of like, oh, I've been through that, I can pinpoint it, and I know that this person is probably in a similar situation, I can speak to that. We wouldn't have that experience if we weren't the ones and to have already gone through it and like blaze that trail, or you know,
forerunners.
So
I mean, I even think of the guy that I've talked about plenty of times on my channel, where I've learned a lot from. His name is Ian Clayton. And even when he's in person, like people will, what he calls, trade into him, essentially. So like whenever he says something that's of value to them, they'll put their money where their mouth is, kind of thing. And it's not like they have to, it's all out of like their, you know,
I like that,
their intuition and whatnot. I mean, it's kind of like even how like on YouTube, there's, you know, like super chats, you know,
I know,
randomly like give $5, $1, you know, that's exactly what he does, but in a physical way, because it'll just be like cash and they'll just throw it on the floor. Like it'll be collected and he'll do whatever he wants with it, usually gives it to someone, you know, and it's just a way of honoring that life, that time spent, you know, laboring for the collective, basically. So I'm all for it, and that's a great boundary for spiritual people to have, is to charge.
It's needed. I think it's kind of somewhat needed, because you have to,
and it sets a good boundary. Like it really does.
It really does.
Yeah, actually, the people that want it and want to grow and want to learn and want to, you know, really look into whatever, they'll put their money where their mouth is, you know.
This topic came up in my chat last night with Tanya, Gypsy Mama, and Manifesting Marin. We had a chat last night, and if you all haven't seen it, Gypsy Mama, she released it today, but
I saw it this morning.
The topic of charging what we're worth, and like knowing what we're worth, and that doesn't even have to just be spiritual people. If you're a person out there who has this creative idea that you've been brewing and holding and cultivating and everything, know your worth. You know, that's creation, and you're bringing it from your like divine space out into the open, and you never know how many lives it's going to bless, and you deserve that energetic exchange. Currency, it's current, it's energy. So know your worth, and that is a huge part of the boundary setting, and like, you know, don't be afraid to ask for too much. Obviously, like, think of something that makes $1 billion. Think of something that makes sense, but also don't shortchange yourself, because it's just crazy. Like there's that fine line of like, if I'm not charging enough, people are gonna be like, this is a rinky-dink product. But then if you're like charging like
I understand. Yes.
yeah, like over, it's like they're asking too much, you know. There's like that sweet spot, but we're it's definitely huge in the spiritual community, and then even other spiritual people who won't support that, and they're like, you should be, you know, there's other people who need to heal, you should be dropping your prices or giving it out for free. It's like, excuse me.
But we know the people that we need to do for free.
Yeah,
We know. We're good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so not to try to like rant or anything, but I feel like, you know, people speak about this, but we're going to speak about it again right now, and that's what we're doing, because it's very important, and there's a lot of people out there who need to step into their power in this area.
I even think of I was just telling Johnny, I was like, I would much rather pay for something handmade and, you know, like crafted by one person than I would something mass produced. I am happy to overpay for that. You know, like if I feel like it's quality, all for it. You know, I'm like, especially, and if I know the person, even better, you know. But anyways, back to the boundary thing. I was gonna say.
No, I thought that was great that you say that, Liz, because like one of your first t-shirts, it's all a pantomime. I think I bought it when it first came out.
Yeah.
I wore that t-shirt everywhere. You don't know how many eyes I opened just with that t-shirt.
That's awesome. I love that.
So I'm like forever grateful to you for that. But I was also like, you need to charge more.
Okay.
Like I was like, I felt like you needed to charge more, but then everybody's like, oh my God, it's just a t-shirt. I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. She's so creative. Like, look, like that was a fantastic t-shirt. I still wear it. It really wakes people up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the first to say that I have a problem with that a lot of times, like charging for what I have labored for, and worked for most of my life, you know, towards. You know, it's definitely a process, but I think it all comes down to self-worth, and even boundaries are essentially preferences, and we learn our preferences from our parents and our childhood and growing up, and our self-worth in the same time period, basically. And I think that for sure has been a huge lesson for me this year specifically, is like learning that, I actually have a voice, and I actually have like good things to say, and you know, I'm actually kind of being selfish keeping it all to myself. And you know, just like I can do more, I like have so many ideas, like, you know, and just that lack of, because I talked about in the last episode, like where I kind of felt like there was a serious lack of boundaries growing up for me, like a serious lack, to where I have no idea like what a boundary was until recently. And I almost felt offended by them, because and it was more detrimental to me than anyone else, because I was not a person to cross boundaries. But at the same time, people crossed mine. Like people just ran all over me all the time.
And because you didn't know what a boundary was.
Yeah, because I didn't know that I was worth setting those, like that my preferences were good enough, or like valuable, or needed to be respected. And I even think of now that I have a 2-year-old, and literally it's all about learning boundaries at this stage. Having a 2-year-old has really taught me about boundaries, because I'm like, he's literally asking for me to show him where the limit is. He's begging for it. That's why he's being crazy. You know, he's asking, what can I do? What can't I do? It's like, today we took apart our whole refrigerator at our house and cleaned it out. And we took out all the shelves and put them on the porch, and I was like spraying them down with the water hose, washing them, just like a really good deep clean. And they're glass, because it's a KitchenAid refrigerator. So it's like, you don't want to break those things. And he was like trying so hard to like, he was like playing with it, and we're like, no, don't play with it. And he was like trying to like help clean it. And we're like, leave it alone, like, you know, just And so I was like, okay, I need to show him something that he can do, because he obviously wants to help. He just has no idea where the boundary is or what I'm even trying to do. So I was like, okay, you take this one that's plastic. You bring it inside. You can help mama put it back together, you know? And after I did that, he was like so much more calm. It was like he calmed down. He was like, okay, so I'll just wait for her to tell me like what I can pick up, and then we can do it together, you know? But before that, it was like chaos. It was like, stop touching things. Gosh. And that's kind of how most of our days are. It's like he's just begging to know, you know, even with his body, like what's the boundary of like, can I jump off of this thing? Can I jump off of this thing? And I'm like, maybe not something 6 foot, like maybe something that's like 2 feet. Like try that one first. You know, it's just like, it's constant. It's this constant lesson of boundaries. And instead of just being like, no, you can't do that, it's like, okay, no, you can do this, but you can't do that. This is a good idea. This probably isn't, you know, and that's kind of, this will keep you safe. This will hurt you. You know, it's like this constant lesson in where the line is. And I feel like I've been learning so much from him, because I'm like, okay, in relationships, where's the line? What is giving too much of me away to where I have nothing left for the people that need it the most, or even myself, or you know, what I want to put out into the world creatively or spiritually or whatever. I'm like, okay, so what is the actual line? And it's really funny because I feel like Lionsgate Portal was very much one of those times. It was like, here's everything. How are you going to deal with it? You know,
that was my wedding anniversary.
Oh, nice. It was my grandmother's birthday. And then we kind of had a Lionsgate Portal energy type of thing recently, and it was like, here's everything. What are you going to do with it? I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this, because last time that just burned me out. And I had nothing left. And then, you know, learning my limits with my body right now, because I'm 36 weeks pregnant. And, you know, it's like this constant boundary lesson for me right now, because I wasn't really taught it as a child. But yeah.
No, I understand that. I mean, I had boundaries as a child, which was great because I grew up in the 60s. I mean, we didn't even have car seats. We were just we were good. But it was great. But being a middle child, it's like you get forgotten between the oldest, who was first and had mom all to himself. And granted, my brother and I are only 14 months apart, so it's not that big a deal. We're like our twins. But then the little brother came along, and he's like 5 years younger than me. And then my little sister came along 12 years later. It was really weird.
Wow.
I'm like true middle child. Like I couldn't ever say no to anybody. And I was the only girl for the longest time. And we grew up, and that was the 60s, early 70s. Boys are boys, girls are girls. So, and I loved my dresses and everything. So I would do all that. But my mom would always be like, you can't do that. And I'd be like, why? Literally, I asked my mom why so much. She finally just would be like, because I said so. That's why. She said that to me almost like the day she died. I was like, well, all right, but why? Because I didn't know what the boundary was.
I mean, and that's why kids ask why. Well, I mean, I actually got told when I was, I think maybe in my 20, like just turned 20, that I asked a lot of questions. And I was like, I do? And there's another question. You know? And I was like, maybe that's because like I never had my questions answered as a child. And so I'm still like super, I don't just accept things ever how they are, you know? And I wonder if that has to do with the lack of boundary setting in my childhood, you know? Because I feel like people that have, I mean, it could just be like an inquisitive mind, but at the same time, I feel like a part of it is very much like but I need to know why I don't need to do this.
Right. Exactly.
And I need to know why I should do this.
Right.
Not just blindly follow whatever. I'm like, it's really funny because I talk about my childhood, like there's so much of it that was, from what I can see now, messed up, but there's so much that, you know, has been a weird blessing in disguise because it's made me who I am. And even to the extent of like, but why do I need to do that? Like, who are they telling me to do this? You know, it's like they say, I'm like, well, who are they? I don't know who these people are. You know, it's kind of like always the way my adult mind has worked. And I wonder if it's just from how I was raised also, and then my inquisitiveness on top of it. But anyways.
Yeah, no, I always ask questions. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's where it stems from. What do you think, Ava? Do you do the same thing?
Absolutely. I got in trouble for asking questions. Like you both of what you were both saying, I'm like, yep. Like with I would get told no, and I just felt like I was getting told no just to get told no. And it's like, but why? Oh, because we said so. Because we're the adults and you're the child and you need all that. And like to me, that's like religious stuff right there. It's just like children need to expect or respect their parents and be, you know, and I'm like,
You see,
obey.
Yes. And I'm a very inquisitive mind. Like both of my degrees are in science. I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna figure it out. And that just because we said so or just saying no was never enough for me. Because and if you think about it, how is a child supposed to learn how to navigate and actually be a human? Like they just got downloaded into this meat suit. They're trying to figure out this dense world and they're getting told no left and right. And it's like, you're the caregiver, you're, you know, whoever's taking care of them. And they're just like shutting doors in their face. How is this person supposed to become a fully developed human?
Right.
But like Liz said, we go through those things and it forms who we are today. However, I don't necessarily feel like that makes it right or okay to just shut off. It's like pinching a water hose. It's like the intelligence stream or like the information stream for a child. And it's like, no, you don't get to learn that today.
And kids are so fascinating. If you just sit down and talk to them, like I do this with our nieces and nephews. We have so many and we can pick any age. We got them down to, I think one's just turned 2 months old. So we can literally borrow. But they like to bring the toddlers to us because they think they're going to wear us out. I'm like, no, they're so fun to talk to. They sit there, you can give them like a water bottle and they're, well, why is it glass? Why do you filter? Like you can answer all their questions and they're so tired by the end of the day. Their parents are like, what did you do to them? They slept all night.
I filled their mind.
We talked all day.
Yeah, I mean, even with there's a new kind of like way they call of parenting these days called gentle parenting or respectful parenting. And it's basically like you can obviously say no, but at the same time, like you give the reason, like you explain it. So if I'm like, no, you need to put, you know, like Levi grabs scissors on the counter or something. I'm like, we need to put those back. And he's just like looking at me like, because he's not exactly at the why stage yet.
Right.
I'm like, we need to put those back because they're sharp and they could hurt you. And mommy's job is to keep you safe. You know, you like just explain it like that. And then he's like, okay, you know, and then he does it. It's fine. It's not this like this power trip constantly. And or even, you know, if like he wants to throw a toy at the TV or something, you're like, okay, you can't throw a toy at the TV because that'll break it. And then we won't have a TV anymore. You can throw it that way at the couch, you know, or if you want to hit something, hit the couch. You don't hit mommy, you know. If you want to bite something, bite a pillow or a blanket. Don't bite mommy, you know. That's a big one for us right now. But
it's the age.
Giving them the options and the understanding right away as to why you don't do things. If you bite mama, it hurts. It makes mama very sad, you know, by giving him that language. And Levi's already like, I'm so sad. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry. Like he full spectrum of emotions already.
That's fantastic that he feels free enough to do that though.
Yeah. And then you're like, it's okay. You can be like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry, but you can't hit, you know, you can't hit mommy. Mommy, I have to keep myself safe and I have to keep you safe too. You know, it's like setting that boundary, knowing where the line is. Like if you need to hit something, go hit a pillow, like go hit a stuffed animal, something that won't be sad if you hit it, you know. It's like, they call it gentle parenting. It's literally like treating your child like they're a human, like they're in a learning space.
Yeah,
Which is
I
what
would
they
have, I
are.
thought that was, yeah, I thought that was like common sense parenting.
Exactly. It really
Oh,
is common
okay.
sense parenting instead of the don't do this, don't do that because I said so. It's like,
Okay,
so then I have to rely on you my entire life and make sure it's
right,
okay with you, everything that I do. Like, no. No one's
right.
gonna, and then the kids end up rebelling from their parents because
Yeah.
they're tired of them being their only voice in their head and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can attest to that person.
Most people can, quite honestly. I know so many people that do, that's technically called authoritarian parenting, I think.
Mhm. Oh, God, yeah.
And
Hello.
yeah,
Right. Yes, yes.
yeah, and I know so many people that are like, oh yeah, my kids are so well behaved, blah blah blah, and I'm like, just you wait till they leave your house.
Yeah.
Wait till they leave your house.
I was so fortunate. My mom stayed home. We had a stay-at-home mom, and my dad would work, but she kind of would throw most of the discipline on him,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which was great. But my mom could throw down, like, you would just get the look and you would just be like, okay, wow, we're
Yeah.
not going to cross that line.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very authoritarian parenting.
Yes.
And even then you're like, I have to be so hypersensitive to this person's specific feelings
Yep.
so that
Mm.
I keep myself safe.
Right.
Because who knows what they're gonna do.
Right. Hence another boundary issue.
Yep.
It really is just so generational. When you look
Mhm.
back at everything, you could just see where it starts, but it took us all this time to see
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
As we were talking about this, it made me feel like these waves of people that have gone through that type of parenting who are having children now, which are the souls that are coming in that might be, if whatever, like newer to this realm souls, or like, I guess not necessarily pure, but you know what I mean, like the crystal
Yeah.
children
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like those people who went through that training of having super cuckoo parenting that are just like if they're healing their inner child and doing all the forgiveness work, then they are fully equipped to raise a child like you are, Liz, with gentle parenting, because they've been there before. But
Right.
they were almost forced to
You can see the
look at
spectrum.
the boundaries, yeah, and see like, oh, I was brought up this way, or I was denied this and or that, and I want better for my child. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's almost like creating this beautiful canvas for these souls that are coming in to have the correct parenting for them.
Yes,
A lot of
So
us
it's
are,
a blessing. It's
Yeah.
at the end of it.
it
a
is.
lot of
It's
us are
like
millennials.
Yeah.
yes, the great awakening of parenting. It's
Yeah.
the great awakening of everything. I think that's fantastic.
I mean, if you think about it, it's necessary, because if we're going to create a different world, there has to be different parenting, because that's where
Yes.
everything starts.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
other than generational stuff, but
I feel like a lot of it also coincides, and I bring up religion a lot, but there's so many people who are suffering from religious trauma or like that. And I feel like that type of parenting does come from like, husband or wife submit to your husband, child submit to you,
Yes.
honor your mother and father, and your days
Yep.
will be long on the earth, and all that. And that's beautiful, yes. However, what if your parents are like deadbeat, like whooping each other's butts in front of you and doing
Right.
drugs and all this other stuff? Like, then what? Like, you know what I mean? So I just feel like like, that's a whole different conversation, but it's like when a person's brought up in the church like I was, and we're taught to stick to this Bible and the portrayal that is from the pulpit.
Yep.
Yeah. Then it's just like, let me stay within these lines,
Mhm.
and with a lot of people leaving the church and discovering relationship and not religion, there's a lot of breaking in that programming that's happening, to create the space for healthy relationships across the board, like not just with parent child, but with themselves, with their intimate partner, with their siblings. There's room for healing and like real conversations, I feel, when those boxes are being broken through.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic and I kind of left at 16. I was the only one who went to a Catholic high school. It made my mom so happy, but I only went there because I didn't have to swim. I was like, okay, I'll go to Catholic high school. All right. But it was so ingrained because we were raised Catholic, but my dad's Methodist. So I had both sides. And you talk like total, that's where I first started to question everything I ever learned in Catholicism, because it's totally different.
Yeah.
In a Methodist atmosphere. And then it's just opened up a whole new world. And then my husband was kind of agnostic. Bless you.
Thank you.
He was agnostic because his mom died when he was young. So he just kind of was like, he didn't really believe. He got baptized Southern Baptist when we lived in Georgia.
That's what I
Like that was like a dichotomy. We went to church and people are like standing up, clapping and singing. And I'm like, that's not how this is done. I'm like so Catholic, and I'm like, but no, religion is so strict. They just want to mold you. And all these poor people are in these little boxes and they're not going to know what to do without the box.
Right. And people, they literally freak out without the box. Absolutely.
Yes, they do. Oh my God.
Well, that's the only boundaries and structure they've ever had.
I know.
So, and it's like so many people, there's so many people that think they're just like free birds, whatever, like gypsy spirits or whatever. I'm like, no, like we need boundaries. We need structure in some areas.
Yes.
Otherwise, like, it's just, you might as well just float away. Like we need it so heavily. It's also on the other side of boundaries, there's cutting people off and that stuff. But something that I've had to learn over the years is that we also need people.
Absolutely.
We're not meant to like have just our husband or wife or partner, whatever, just fill our cup. Like we need others. We need community. Like,
yes,
I sent Ava a TikTok. I don't know if you saw it yet, but I sent you a TikTok talking about that.
Not yet.
I was like, yes, that's so good. I mean, we're meant to fill our cup, or not fill, but like add to our cup. Like others are meant to add to our cup. And that community and that support system, like I look at my husband's culture, he's from Mozambique, which is a village. It's a straight up village. And he didn't really understand until more recently why motherhood is so hard for me.
Right.
I mean, there's so many spectrums of why it's hard for me, but one of the main reasons is that I am pretty much doing it on my own. He's gone at work 90% of the day and I'm by myself with my child all day long. And unless I go out and meet to the park or meet mom friends or whatever, do play dates and stuff or talk to people on the internet. I'm completely I'm alone, parenting. And then in his culture, the women have the babies and then they have 10 mamas surrounding them that live right next to them. They all cook and they share meals. So you don't really have to cook all the time. And then on top of it, if a kid is doing something bad over here, the parent doesn't have to intervene. One of the mamas will, one of the other ladies will. They'll parent everybody's kids, and it's not rude and it's not weird at all. There's no boundary to that. It's no, they're doing something bad, so we're stopping it, or they just hit my kids, so we're talking to them and putting, telling them whatever. And everybody's kind of on the same page on everything too, because they grew up in the same village. So it's a collective mind raising kids. And I was like, that's how it's supposed to be. And if it were like that, I'd have 10 kids, sure. But it's not.
My mom's from a family of 8, and that's part of the reason. She grew up in the house with great grandma and the great aunt lived there, and they all raised the kids. They all disciplined the kids. They knew everyone on the street. We were raised the same way, just like your husband.
That's honestly why I moved into the neighborhood that I live in now. I lived there until I was 6. My dad lives across the street, and there's only 8 people in the neighborhood, and I know all of them. And if they see Levi running around, they'll grab him and like take him inside or like bring him back home. Or it just feels more so like that than, I mean, most of them are at work all day, but like, you know, otherwise, if they were out and, you know, he was running off somewhere, they would stop him. They would, you know, take care of him. He's looked after. And I just like that environment so much more. I've like had to create it because I don't naturally have that as we should. Like that's why they say it takes a village to raise a child, because it's supposed to.
Yes, I agree with that. And we've done that, like even when we were first married, like we were the only ones married. Like we had everyone, like the whole squad over for like Thanksgiving, Christmas. We've always made community. We're the only ones that know all our neighbors. When new people move in, we like show them all our neighbors. We're the only 6 houses on our street that have never sold in the past 20 years.
Wow.
Which is quite nice, but we all know each other and look out for each other. Like they can go for a trip for a week and not worry.
Yeah, all of the people in my neighborhood, or I would say like 75% of them, have been there since I was a kid, so they know me.
Yes,
they watched me grow up. And
that's
I
nice.
love that so much.
What's really beautiful about the village community, like, or that setup is, and I would be interested to know how much like root chakra dysfunction in those areas are, like what the difference is from a village aspect versus like ours, because we know ours is like super disrupted. But in the village setting, like the kid knows they can run to whoever and they're gonna possibly like probably more than likely feel love, feel support, feel security, feel stability. Like somebody might whip them in line, not in like a violent way, but I mean like you know, reprimand them, you know. And kids innately want that because they feel cared for and looked after. So like if you have that not just from your parents but from all of these people surrounding you, like can you I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like I can only imagine feeling immersed in that love like constantly, or that, and that support constantly, and like the real feeling of community like that and what it does for a child versus here, where say it's somebody in a big neighborhood and they don't know the families don't talk because they just go inside and watch TV and do whatever all day. And like this kid is running somewhere and they need help and they have to make it home because that's the only people they know and that's the only place where they feel safe and know they're supported, you know what I mean? So I'd be so interested to know like, the difference.
It makes a total sense with just how my husband is in general. Like he's like the least fearful person I've ever met. And I think that's why I was attracted to him, because there was so much like within my family, especially, there's just like so much fear, everything, you're scared of everything. Like, and when I was younger, was afraid of everything for the most part. But it's like I was talking to my dad, and he was talking about some kind of like burn ban happening, like you can't burn at this time because it's so dry. And I was like, where do you hear about these things? Because I've never heard of a burn ban. And he's like, on the news. You guys never watch the news. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to know like how many people got shot around me, and like, you know, like I don't care to know who robbed who. It's all negative. And he's like, well, I do, because that tells me where I don't need to go. I was like,
sorry, that's just kind of funny.
It is.
And I was like, okay. And then he started talking about like up by where my husband works, like how there was like tons of like, you know, shootings and stuff like that happening over there recently. And I was like, do you realize where my husband's from? I don't think you understand. Like he has been in a literal war. Like he has ducked in a car because there's like a war. He's in the middle of it. Like, and people just like go around like cutting people's heads off like with machetes. Like
Right.
And he is not afraid of anything.
No, he
That
wouldn't
didn't
be.
make him any more afraid. You know, and it speaks to that, I think, like he has such a secure groundedness to him, root chakra groundedness to him, that, you know, he's not looking for the next fearful thing to to like fuel his life almost. So many people like get such a weird addictive high out of fear. And, you know, he's never looking for that ever. Like he thinks about safety a lot, but he never is thinking that like he's gonna, you know, he goes somewhere and something bad's gonna happen to him ever. Like he just is very like secure and calm and knows that he's protected, basically. And
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
that kind of makes sense with like what you were just talking about. Like anywhere he goes, he like makes friends with anyone. He can talk anyone down out of their like heightened, you know,
Anxiety.
state.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people can do that, I don't think, like not in America at least, you know, the Western world. But I think that does like attest to the whole like root chakra community thing for sure. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, because root chakra has been a huge one in the community lately. Holy crap.
Oh my gosh,
Stuck
yeah.
on the root chakra. I'm like, okay, people. Like,
Me and
like,
Ava have been
I
talking
feel
about
it
constantly. We're like,
it feels like a punch in the gut every time someone asks me about the root chakra. I'm like, oh crap, because I can feel it, like what they're feeling. I'm like, oh boy, okay, we don't have enough time to go over this.
yeah. It's such a deep rooted pun intended deep rooted issue in the Western world. Like they have like just bombarded us with like the sense of no security ever, you know.
And I felt secure. I didn't go to kindergarten to 1972. I was 4. My mom was a little bit like on the fence to send me or not, but I was like super talkative, so she thought it'd be good for me. So we had to walk to school. I was never fearful until kindergarten showed me a tape about people kidnapping kids off the street.
Oh God.
And then I had to walk back and forth to school. So I made my mom walk me back and forth to school.
Yep.
But like, I'm like, why? Like, I was so happy up until that point. I would talk to anybody. And from that day forward, my mom's like, anytime a car would approach, I would like literally go behind my mom. Like, it's just, I still do it to this day. My husband laughs. He's like, they're just asking directions. I'm like, you don't understand. It's just an ingrained thing. Like, I understand, but I'll do it from over here.
I wonder if it's a generational thing for you. Like
it is
when
totally.
you saw that, it resonated with something in you.
Yes. Yes. And I know that I've been kidnapped in past lives, so that doesn't help. So that's for another time. Yeah. That was a good hurt to get over. Yeah.
I'm like, and this is our school system, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we're just saying.
Let's just scare the crap out of the kids forever.
And that was in 1972. I'm just saying, old school. Okay, well, not anything like now. Ooh.
Also, if you can keep people fearful, you keep them submissive.
Yep. Exactly. So I love that we're talking about root chakra stuff because it leads right into abandonment and fear of abandonment and how that plays into like what areas that it might stem from and how it plays into the rest of our life. And this is the last thing that I wanted to touch on because I know that's a big thing that I've dealt with in my life and I'm still, sorting through all that. And I feel like it manifests itself in more ways than we realize, kind of like the codependency thing, which I'm still diving into too, because I feel like we have these ideas of what it looks like, but there's probably more subtle energies too. And if you all have ideas on any ways that abandonment might be manifested that we don't necessarily pick up on, I'd be interested for you to say. For me, it was just with, like I was talking about with the whole we're the adult, you're the child, like essentially don't speak. It was like being kind of just like put off in a corner, and it's like an energetic and emotional abandonment there. That's the main thing that I think of. my parents being like kind of the last person to pick me up from school or from something, it's like, oh, the Fords are going to be the last ones there, and that feeling, not that they wouldn't come get me, but it was just like, we're still here.
The top priority. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then before cell phones were like a big thing, this is so crazy to think about, but I had been joking with people about this probably since I was in like second grade. And I'm like, how did I even know this in second grade? But my parents would be out and I'd be calling and calling, never get an answer from them. And I'd be like, I could be dead on the side of the road and my parents would never know. And I would be, and like still today, it's I can call them. I don't necessarily get an answer. I can text. I might not get something back for 2 weeks. And I know that they've been on their phone. And I've even, like a couple years ago when I moved back with them after Florida, I remember my dad being like, oh yeah, so-and-so, we text with them all the time. I'm like, I'm sure you do. Like, so for me, that was just feeling, I don't know, that was very like an abandonment type thing for me too. Just feeling like I couldn't get a hold of them.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I'm using Levi all the time as examples because it's very prevalent in my life. But I think about like how I remember as a kid that it was like not a top priority. Like my needs were not a top priority. The needs that I needed to be met were not at the top of my parents' list, and I felt like they were important because they were my needs, and that very much like stemmed and trickled into everything else in my life. Like I have a hard time taking care of myself a lot of times because I wasn't shown that, yes, I am important to come first, like routines are hard for me. And in that way, it's like, I've heard recently that the reason that kids usually say dad first is because they see their mother as an extension of them. Mm-hmm. So they don't see them as separate. So when you're not getting your needs met by specifically your mother very early on in life, it feels like self-abandonment, basically. Yeah. And that's a huge one. It's like putting everyone else before you, and a lot of empath people do that. And just spiritual people in general, because they're always trying to help, they're always trying to fix something else because something else is more important. It's like other people's needs are more important because their needs weren't met first off as a child also. And I can see in my life how that was probably the case. And, you get to a stage with children, like Levi is very, very needy. Like he's very needy at this stage, specifically with me. And I know it's because of that. Like he didn't say mama for a long time, because he was connected to me so heavily. Like we co-slept and everything until he was 2. Now he sleeps with my husband. Like we got him off of me just for that little bit, once I stopped nursing him. But I can see now, like there's something, there's like big traumas, like big T traumas, and there's micro traumas. Mm-hmm. And I can see now, it's like almost like it drives my brain crazy because I'm like, I can see where it could possibly be a tiny trauma. Like, like he's asking me to look at him. He's asking me to do something with him. He's blah, blah, blah. And I'm not responding. I'm like, let me finish what I'm doing, kind of thing. And it could result in a abandonment trauma response for him because he sees me as an extension of him. And, I'm the most important person to him because he's very much a mama's boy and I'm not meeting his needs, And there's like, I like still don't know to this day where the balance is because I didn't have that. And then I don't want to overdo it either. Like, I don't know where the line is right there with that. But I think about that every time I think of like getting his needs met, because I'm like, I want to create that security and that sense of safety and not abandonment that I felt like I've been dealing with most of my life. There was also like, for me, like, you know, I kind of was abandoned separately with my parents in separate ways. You know, my parents got divorced, and so I was like very much feeling abandoned by my father for a long time. Because he just didn't really have the capacity to like be mature enough to like say he wanted us around. It was like we had to want him, you know? And so it was kind of like, but you know, it's like now as an adult, I'm just like, okay, that was that. But then I, you know, discovered so many different ways that I was also more so emotionally abandoned by my mother. And like I said, I've said before we started filming, I was like, I didn't realize until my adult years that it was a very much a generational thing with my mom. Her mom did the same thing. Her mom did the same thing. And so that was just the way things were. And it took going to my generation to be like, but this is not how it should be. Like, I, with every ounce of my being, I'm going to try to end this, you know, because this is not okay. Just because it is that way and it has been that way doesn't mean it should. And I feel like that's kind of the place where a lot of people are right now, especially like the millennial generation. We're like very much like, just because it is that way doesn't mean it should be. Like, and we're just kind of waking up to the fact that we can change these things, because they're such small T traumas, but they make such a big impact.
Huge impact.
Like, because they're psychological, you know. And the way you think is the way your world is.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Mary?
Well, just recently, well, not that recent, God, oh my God, it's been 12 years since my mom died. Okay. So, you know, when time flies, it's really weird, but yeah, when she passed away, my dad had no idea what to do with us kids. We're all adults. He still doesn't know what to do. I talk to him before he goes to Florida and when he comes home from Florida. He lives 2 miles away.
Oh my goodness.
No one calls, no one texts. I'm like, okay, I'm just over here. So I'm like, okay. And for the first year, it really bugged me. It's like, okay, that's just how it's going to be. But he was never there my whole childhood either, because he worked all the time. And then he went and did whatever made him happy. And my mom was home with us. Like, he could go bowling, he could go out with his friends, but like my mom wanted to go out to dinner with him or something. No. Well, you know, or they did like once a year and it was like a big deal. And then he got involved in the school board, but you know, that was for us kids. So he said, so he would leave my mom again. And I'm like, okay, so there was a lot of abandonment there. So I'm like, I don't know why it surprised me.
That's one thing that I don't think people realize is like, we're talking about like childhood traumas and stuff like that, but like, you can have traumas all through your life. With, you know, and you know, even if you're an adult, your parents can still traumatize you.
Still screw you up. Yes.
Like, I mean, I always say like, that's why your work is never done, because we live in an imperfect world. And as long as we are interacting with imperfect people, there's always going to be more to forgive and to learn from, and, you know, like break cycles of, and whatever, like it's always going. And I mean, that was kind of a big shock to me, was realizing that, oh my gosh, I was like traumatized and abandoned in my adult life by my parents. And I wasn't even like directly like with them, but just like their actions actually spoke way louder than words. And you know, I I felt abandoned and hurt and, you know, started to resent them because of just different things that they did and they've always kind of done. And, you know, I'm like, oh, well, I still have to forgive them. This isn't just like a childhood thing, you know. And that's also the thing too, is like, I don't think people realize that you literally always need your parents. Always.
Yeah.
You always will need them. That's the one job that you can never get out of. Once you become a parent, you are a parent for life, no matter how old your kids are. And, you know, your relationship dynamic changes most of the time, but that need to belong and feel safe and accepted and, you know, like taken care of, or like even having like someone to fall back on, it's always there. Like, we're parents are meant to be safety nets for
Yes.
their children, and then when they become parents, they're safety nets for their children, and then it just, you know, you should have a good amount of netting, you know, in your line right there. But I think there's been this mentality where it's just like, I really see it a lot with like Generation X, I think it is, like right before millennials.
Right before us, yeah.
Yeah, that it's like, nope, we did it, we're done. You're old, you're adults now, we're done.
That's my dad. My dad's like that, but he's like in his 80s.
Yeah.
But he's
started a generation early.
Yeah, but he's like, okay, so your mom's dead. Okay, I got a girlfriend. I'm
Yeah.
going to Florida. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, bye. You know, and he's like, he doesn't understand why I won't. He's like, you never come see me. I'm like, hello, hi.
Well,
like
yeah.
the phone works both ways. Like,
If I didn't live across the street from my dad, that's how it would be also.
yes, yes.
Yeah. That's why we intentionally moved across the street, to just make that conversation end.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
Yeah. But it was one thing that I realized I needed to essentially heal and take back.
Yeah.
And a lot of different things, but that was very much it. Was I also wanted to be around family.
Yes,
you know, the closest, most stable family to be around.
absolutely.
You know, knowing that I was like gonna start having kids and stuff, you know, I wanted the safety net. And he has been, because we're right there. He's been that safety net for us. You know, like if we ever need anything, I call him, I'm like, give this, can we use this? You know, still to this day. And he usually does. And he loves that we do that too. He loves to be needed also. But I like kind of forced my safety net to be there. I was like, we will move in across the street.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Apparently I have to teach you how to be a dad, but that's all right. That's all right.
That's so awesome. You all, this has been such a good conversation, and I hope our viewers really find value in this, and also learning more about the other content creators here.
Yep.
And because I think they do value like getting little peeks into our world, and know that we're like real human beings just sitting in front of the laptop talking,
Right.
and having real conversation, and we're not out of reach, and unrelatable. So does anyone have anything else they would like to add before I fully close this out?
Cover everything?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me join you guys. I just
Absolutely.
crashed in, so
I just love how you did it. You were like, hi, I'm gonna join you.
I'm gonna be on that. Okay. Sweet.
It was so cute. It was like, oh yeah, of course, why not?
I'm like, this is fun. I like doing this. This is fun.
Yeah, and everybody, I'm going to link Mary's information down below, Liz's information down below, as always. My information is going to be down below, and trying to think if there's anything else. No, please remember to like, share, subscribe if you have not already. And if you resonate with this this video and this content, please share this with somebody that is this could be beneficial for, because when you like and share, that helps this message to get out to more people. This is not about the three of us. This is about healing the individual and ultimately healing humanity and getting us to a world that we deserve to inherit quicker. So thank you all so much for being here, Mary and Liz. Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you to all the viewers for all of your support, your donations, your buying from the shops, and whatever you do to contribute to all of us. You do not, like, your efforts don't go unnoticed, and we wouldn't be here without you all. We wouldn't have a channel without you all. So thank you so much. And remember, you all, you are sovereign, powerful, worthy, and loved. We will see you on the next video. Love you.